Yeah, it needs to have the other part. Oh, yeah.
Tie it together.
HDMI.
They do, they complement each other. One person's account. No.
Yes. Perfect. Hi, everyone.
Up in the air. No.
Hello, I'm Joe O'Connell, and you'll see where I'm from in a minute. I'm practically your neighbor, you'll see in a moment. So Creative Machines is the name of my studio, and we're about 13 minutes away. We're on Irvington Road, just a little bit west of here, and I have 20 to 30 people from Tucson who work in my studio with me. We have been here for about 20 years. So we're basically up here, and I just drove this 15 minutes ago to see you. We know a lot of people in this corridor because we have these open houses frequently, and we do a lot of work with local schools, and we have a lot of neighbors from this corridor, both from the south end of the Houghton corridor and then along I-10. That are really close to us and come visit. We had one just last month, and they're testing out the wet wheel, which will be installed in Tucson in 2 weeks. And we've gotten many repeat visitors, so I feel like we're part of this local area. These are just people in the last year who came to test our interactive exhibits, play with our art, test the art, draw. We have lots of whiteboards that they draw on. So just a little bit of introduction. I need to thank the city of Tucson for helping myself and Creative Machines start our art career. We started in 2004 making art in Tucson, and this is how we got our start. And these two pictures were taken, this was taken just a few weeks ago, and this was taken when we installed it. So a lot of our work has long staying power. You know, we spent a fortune on the paint. I'm still getting trouble from our accountant, but 4 layers later, and it's still a bright color after being in the sun. And we did Bike Church was another early project. And then we went on, we didn't do as many projects in Tucson for a while. We built some of the world's largest sculptures. This is one of the world's largest freestanding kinetic sculptures. This is the world's largest acrylic sculpture, and we've won lots of awards all over the world for some of our big pieces. We kept trying to get new jobs in Tucson because we love Tucson. But again, we build projects all over. And the reason I'm showing you these is in case some idea inspires you, but also to see that there's really a huge variety of styles. This is an interactive gateway that we'll be installing in Atlanta in just a few weeks in a historic area. This was done at Google headquarters, and you only see the word joy from a certain angle, and then the hearts from another angle. And then this is a sculpture we did for NASA recently. It's a kinetic sculpture with these pieces orbiting around. And then the most recent installation was for a police headquarters, and it's figurative. It has all of these eyes you can look through, and then at night it projects patterns. So I've been doing a lot with colored glass lately. Again, we do all sorts of different forms. These are molecules. These are all of this is called Earth's blanket. The one on the left is the greenhouse gases for an institute that studies the environment. We do a lot of these projection sculptures where we take words donated by the community and we work with communities to produce them. And then they project. And we do drawn figures and human figures as well. We've done a lot of these. A droplet of water with all the forms that water takes in this particular neighborhood outside of Denver. We've seen that. And then we were very fortunate to be selected as the artist to do some projects at Tucson. So this zoo sign, which includes all the animals of the zoo at different levels, has become a real favorite for people. You know, both visible from a distance because it's so big, but then there's a lot of detail up close that you can find. And then we're doing a coyote for the east side of town that you can stand under, and it looks like it's going. I wanted to answer some questions about community engagement. We do a lot of really hands-on work with communities. So a lot of times I'll meet with people, and we could do this at Creative Machines. We could do it here, and I just bring hundreds of pounds of materials. Oh, I've turned off the sound just so that I'll explain what's happening. So I sit down and I work with all the groups, and you can see they're all doing things. And then, you know, I have them explain what experience we want them to have. And it's a little hard to see because these kids aren't using it, but I give them all of these human figures. And it's hard to get figures that are racially and gender diverse, but we found them. And so they find little figures that look like them, and they put them in the experience, and they're explaining, you know, what kind of experience they want to have with the art. This is for a very interactive art piece we designed, meeting with these guys. And, you know, I would pick up, oh, you really want to be part of something. Here you are with your friends, and you're part of something bigger, and it's aligned with what the Earth and solar system are doing. And then here you're doing something kinetic, and it's got big forces, and it's swinging and pushing back on you. But we do a lot of this community engagement where people are thinking with their hands, not just like giving words, and people sometimes can't draw, but they can put things together. And I found that that's a great way to bridge the gap with people and to get them invested. And everyone knows that the finished piece isn't going to look exactly like what they're doing, but it's remarkable how you can draw from their descriptions of the experience commonalities that then go into the art. And our experience has been people have a lot of buy-in and feel ownership when the final art piece comes. So we work with kids, we work with seniors, we stage these at different times of the day to get people who are working, people who are available in the day, people after school. We bring in groups of school kids as well. So that's one thing we do to develop the ideas. Right now, I'm doing a lot of work with dichroic materials that are for sunny locations, where you get brilliant colored reflections and colored shadows through materials that are not terribly expensive and have a really good architectural warranty so that they'll last for a long period of time. And I've just been, you know, taking plant forms and making sculptures that change their colors throughout the day as the sun moves past them. I've been designing sculptures for really remote wilderness areas that also look somewhat space-agey. I build a lot of models. This is a sundial that changes color as the sun moves through the sky. Even though we have a whole lot of computer technology at Creative Machines, I'm always building physical models just to see how things work. Other people. And then we have David Smith is working at Creative Machines. He's developing a material called ferroc, which is a carbon negative alternative to concrete that's actually stronger than concrete. And we've been setting colored glass inside it. So that's a material that I would consider for this area because it looks both of the future and of the past. And it lets us incorporate color in an interesting way. These are actually replaceable if they need to be. There's the wet wheel in the back. For installation. And we've had a lot of experience using glass in public pieces that has held up extremely well. So I wanted to convince you also that we know what we're doing. We can do things on time and on budget. So we've done hundreds of projects all over the world. We have an amazing facility that's just 12 minutes away. And behind the beautiful, colorful art is really solid engineering. So for instance, for the coyote, You know, there's a lot of simulation and analysis of forces. You know, every piece that goes above the ground, it's just like a tree with its roots. You have a footing below ground. And we're really good at the solid aspects of designing. And because we have engineers on staff, we figure this out when a project is proposed so that there aren't surprises down the line. So Ron Schneider is our structural engineer of record. But before we have Ron look at these and stamp them, we've done our own simulations in-house so that we know what's going to work and what type of footing it's going to use. And in this case, we were able to use a standard footing that's already being used in this retention pond on the east side of Houghton off Grant Road. How are we for time? We can go right into Q&A now.
Yeah, we could. That's 128. Q&A was going to start at 1:30.
Perfect. I have a 2-minute video we can take a look at. So this is like the story of how we'll stop it a little longer. This just shows a little bit of our process for a kinetic sculpture that we did recently. This is the good parts. So we do simulation, computer simulation. I'm not advocating a kinetic sculpture here, but if we were to do one, we do computer simulation of complex models. I built a little working model, you know, just to see how it would work. I strapped it to the roof of my car, and here we are going, and then here it is at the big fan, and we're measuring very high wind speeds to see how does it act, and then it's back to, this is prototyping the light effects in our shop, and then of course, I'm zipping ahead, fabrication, you know, we do all of that work in-house, really just about less than 15 minutes away from here, and we invite visitors all the time. But a project like this is very complicated and involves many stages. We're also, let me get to so a whole lot of testing. Let's get to the actual installation. Oh yeah, because we're basically also almost a construction firm in that everybody is properly trained to use the different lifts and cranes required for installation. And here we are testing it after it's installed, and it works just like the model. It's amazing how that sometimes happens. I'm really an advocate of computer rendering and modeling, not just for kinetic things, because it really works. So this is a sculpture that weighs 14,000 pounds. It can pick you up. But we work with a whole group of safety consultants, and it's just been loved by the community. No one's ever gotten hurt with it. Well, I'm ready for questions. Yes.
You mentioned that you get the community involved to have big sessions and people to those things.
We do.
If we did do it as an art, would you do it like just our group, or would you do like an open thing? I don't know how this is out, but with offering it to the community to come out and have everybody involved.
That's the biggest challenge, is how do you get people there? So what we've done in the past is we go through groups that people are already coming to, schools, for instance. And this is where we've done work in other cities. Here, it's a little bit unique because we already have a list when we do our open houses of people who are in this neighborhood. So we would start with, we could send an email list to them, and a lot of them have been repeat visitors to Creative Machines. But then I think, you know, maybe we would have it here, and, you know, this community center has its own channels for publicizing through social media and through their members. So you publicize it through channels that people are already used to looking at. But that's one of the biggest challenges, is how do you get the right group of people? So when we did a project in Louisville, you know, there was a lot of distrust. And so we worked through a church, and we did it in the church basement because people are already used to coming there. Where we did projects on Houghton Road, we would work with different community centers where people are already used to going, and they already have a mailing list. So I would probably combine our existing mailing list which includes Rita Ranch and Littletown and this whole swath with the existing mailing list of the community center here. That's the hard part. And then the easy part is we do an introduction, we give people lots of stuff to do, and then, you know, myself and another person will go around and talk with people and say, so what are you doing here? And then if this is you, what are you seeing? And in this case, for this art thing, I think a lot of it is moving by high speed. So, and it's not physically interactive. So we kind of shape the type of community engagement toward the type of project it's going to be. So we might do some stuff with images. We might have people bring images, or we might have a way that they can combine some images of what this area means to them. Yeah, we've done 3D, we've done 2D, but hands-on is the way to do it.
What have you got in mind for this type of thing?
Color and a big form, I think, because it's such a vast landscape. Anything small will get lost. So I think it has to be big and colorful.
It also has to be, when you look at it, you know what it is.
Yes. And I think we have a pretty good record of that. Our coyote is a coyote.
Yes.
Our bike
Yes.
wheel is a bike wheel. The donut in front of the art museum is probably the least recognizable thing, but at least it's a glowing donut.
This is not an artsy
Right,
community.
right.
It's a very middle class, lay down, you know, they want to see and they want to be able to say, hey, that's fantastic. Look at that bicycle.
They
Oh,
want a
that's wonderful.
story
Look
that
at
they
that
can,
animal."
yeah,
Yes.
it has to have a clear
They
beginning,
want-
middle, and
yes.
end to align with their story. Completely agree. And I think you'll find that our pieces are meant to be part of people's stories. Because if you can't explain it to somebody else, it hasn't done its job.
Have you ever driven down Houghton Road and seen the metal sculpture and know how many people have no idea what that is and why it's there and why did anybody choose that? We still hear it. How many years later? But people
talking
know
about the
in the
cocoon?
neighborhood, they
Yes.
really hate it.
Well,
They really hate it.
Huh.
So I want you to know that we're very visually, we're visual people. We want to see the story. We want to be able to recognize your object, not have it be anything
well, I may have
abstract.
lost the commission right now, but I did the cocoon with 2 other partners.
Sorry.
And no, that's a legitimate criticism. But I will also tell you, I get letters all the time from people who love it. And they show me, oh, our family meets there when we go on bike rides. So, and that doesn't mean that they're right, but there's two sides. Let me tell you how the cocoon came to be. I was caught between, so we had the people at Savannah, we want an experience. We want something very modern. And then every other group met, we want something that is derived from nature. I want a coyote. I want a saguaro. And I said, well, nature already makes good saguaro. So how was I going to put together nature and an experience? And I had 2 other art partners. And meanwhile, the clock is running, the money's running out. So that was an attempt to do an experience that you go through that was also a nature thing. So sometimes when you listen really hard to the community, you get pulled in different directions. But we do have a lot of people who have sent us pictures of their families there, loving it. So
I would tell you now,
yeah,
the people in Rita Ranch don't love it. I'm
what would they
sorry.
prefer?
You know what?
Yeah.
If you had made your cocoon more gentle and soft
Yeah,
and more lacy like a cocoon really is,
right.
I know that it's supposed to be the rebirth of Houghton, and a butterfly coming out would have helped.
Yes.
And I do think with the cocoon that it is about an individual experience, and I get that not everybody has the same opinion about it, but, and I do see that it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little more of the Savannah style
Yeah,
with the particular aesthetic they have in that neighborhood. So it doesn't seem like the artwork that you do will definitely do work with the communities that you're partnering with.
yes.
And I would also like to bring up that the neighborhood is growing and it is changing, and there are lots of new young professionals moving in with the tech park, and we've got the base right there, and we've got all of this, you know, this big school district that keeps growing. And, I'm not against abstract either.
I'm not either. Certain
But
abstract
yeah,
is
I
good.
get what
I'm
you're saying,
I'm
though.
not,
I
but
get-
I know
I
what I
understand.
hear, and I
Yes.
just am bringing what my neighbors
Yeah.
tell me. What they hear.
Right. And I regard that as a very valid criticism. That's not one of my favorite pieces. I didn't show it.
I know.
It was a compromise. You know, it's like making dinner. There is a time when everybody expects it. There's politics in the kitchen. There's limited ingredients in the fridge. There's all of these demands. The safety officer wouldn't let us do a smaller diameter. Oh my goodness, there was all these compromises. And I've learned about how to do, so we did the community engagement there with pictures and voting, and that's not how to do it. You want people actually making. So I have evolved and grown since then.
Thank you. And I
Yeah.
really didn't mean to be insulting.
No, you're not. It's legitimate criticism because I'm a professional and the community is the ultimate judge and arbiter if we're doing a good job. Yeah.
I think I have maybe a bit more of a technical question.
Yeah.
With cost materials and things these days, I know the Coyote is getting ready to go into
Yeah.
production, something like that. What, and I don't know, I think it was 15 feet tall, something like that.
Yeah.
Good size.
It hasn't shrunk. Yeah.
How does the budget for that particular piece, is it more or less about the same as this one? I can't remember what that is.
That budget is more than this one.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out, things for the buck save.
Exactly.
What's that, 23?
So we're really cognizant of what drives cost. And a big faceted form will keep the cost lower. We have to pay for the footing. It's a giant hole so it requires a huge footing. So that was part of the budget. Something that's spread out more can have visual impact, but require less subsurface work. So we think about that as we do it as well. Something that's bright colored and occupies space without having a whole lot of intricacy and mass is going to have more visual impact at a lower cost. I mean, we think about that all the time.
And we have about a minute left. Any last remarks or one last super quick question?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Just a quick clarification, because I myself was a little bit confused.
Yes.
In the past, in some of our folks have been in the past, and what is procedurally? So, in the past, the artists have come in, and then they wrote it down. Typically, the artist shows what they're thinking for this particular road, and so you might be shaking your head for grant road, but every time we had it out here, it's called friend. And then they can choose then between the finalists and then work with them to kind of judge it to.
Yeah,
get more.
that's later with the selected artists. We'll go into a design phase where we'll meet periodically, or where the panel will meet with the artists to discuss themes, things that represent the community. That's where all of you come in to develop the theme. So right now it's a request for qualification. So they're just demonstrating their past work and their interest in.
So they're gonna select the one artist based on their past work.
Yeah, so today, after reviewing all three artists, there'll be discussion and deliberation.
And that's one of the great things about the way Tucson does it, is you are not picking a design, you're picking the artist, and then you're telling the artist what to do. And that's how the cocoon, I'm sorry, well, that is actually how the cocoon came about from the artist. But that's how the coyote, how the zoo sign came out. We didn't go into the process knowing that that's what we were going to make, but weeks and weeks of discussion with the committee led to those projects, and that's what the committees wanted.
My pleasure. We want to take a quick break, or you want to move right into the next artist?
Bring it on. I said, bring it on. Bring it on.
And we do up the Ronan Riley and Casey.
Hey guys.
Got some things to look at and.
We're controlling the sound.
If it was near a bus stop, that would be really nice. That one over there would be very, very nice and easy to.
We're approaching. Hey everyone, we're gonna go right into our next artist, Robin Riley and Jason Butler. And they brought props today, which is wonderful. I'll let them go to it.
So thank you all for inviting us. We're very excited to present our work and just kind of give you an idea of who we are and how we work together. So we thought we'd go through and just show you slides of us, our work individually and like what we like to do. And then kind of show you how we've combined our two mediums and some of the things that we can make and some cool projects that we've done. So we'll start with Jason and we'll show you some of his work first.
And I imagine, like, I don't know if we take the time to introduce everybody, but I imagine in here there's everybody from people that live in the neighborhood to project manager to, you know, Pima County transportation, city, you know, whatever, right? Kind of more or less. All you guys. Cool. Different people are nodding.
It's different community members and
So my name's Jason. I've lived in Tucson area for about 20 years. I did my Master of Fine Arts at the U of A. Okay. And you know, nearby right here, I did the artwork at Michael Perry Park. Going into the park, I did Atterbury Wash Greenway, which you can practically see from this building. So all the art in there. So I've been doing public art for about 10 years. I'm inspired by nature a lot. The sculpture on the left there, you know, I enjoy manipulating metal to make it look like it's kind of more natural, curvy, branch type stuff. On the right is a public art, you know, piece I did in Oro Valley. It's a family of quail. The parents' quail are about 8 feet tall, steel and concrete. Okay.
Okay with the lights on or should we have the lights off?
there we go.
Yeah, that's better.
Let me know when you want.
So I've been doing metalwork for over 20 years. I have my own business. I have 6 kids and, you know, a wife, and I support my whole family just doing metalwork. My wife homeschools our kids, so very busy doing a lot of, here's some examples of client work, you know, commissions. I do a lot of work for the Arizona Trail. You know, just trying to be very creative and artistic about all the metalwork that I do around town. You know, public art or client-based pieces. A lot of collaboration and designing things together with people, right? You know, and if y'all have any questions as we go through, just we can do them during. We don't necessarily have to say anything. On the right is an example of a client project. You know, some seating next to a pool with some colored glass and colored concrete, and then this bench actually wrapped around the palm tree. You know, so really being able to work with people and what they want, customized to what's desired. And then on the left is a public art piece I did in Tucson. It's about 21 feet tall, near it's like First and Fort Lowell, more or less.
And just to introduce myself, I'm Robin Riley. I've also been working in Tucson for a long time. I started doing mosaics at the late 90s probably, and I do public art, private commissions. And my style is very colorful. I like color. I like things bright and bold and fun. And I also am inspired by nature, so I like to have a lot of organic lines and curviness. I just think it's more interesting to me. And here's a couple examples. The piece on the left is actually in a bathroom, in a shower area. I just wanted something fun and colorful. And the piece in the middle, that's up in Picture Rocks. It was part of their Safe Routes to School program. And it was these colorful mosaics to kind of guide the children from school to the park, to the swimming area, just kind of creating safe places with art. And then the last one is just one of the mosaics that I like to do, just showing nature. Next slide. I use a lot of different material. This piece on the left, this was from a friend's cabin that burned down in the Aspen fire in Mount Lemmon a long time ago. And so she had all these remnants of things from her cabin, and she wanted a mosaic that she could hang on the wall as kind of like a tribute to, you know, this great house she had, this cabin, all these memories. And so I kind of used that and created this, you know, kind of an object mural with all these mementos from her past. And also, you know, I use tile and glass and metal objects. And then I've done some work with boulders. One of the things I like to do is take something small and make it big. So when I was commissioned to do a trailhead, this is the Wild Burrow Trail, I thought, you know, you see all these cool little cairns all over, and I thought it'd be cool to have a massive one. So this one is, you know, 12 feet tall, very wide. You can see it from the wash. It was just fun to play with scale. Next slide. And a lot of what I do, you know, I do murals, tile murals. I have some samples on the front, just on the front table here, so you can see color. But I do these for, you know, private commissions. I love to do mosaics, playing with tile. I work out of my house. I have a kind of a backyard studio. Right now it's a tent. But I have a wet saw, and, you know, I have all my supplies out there. So the one on the bottom here is it's a waterfall and a pool. And then the project on the right is one that I'll show you more pictures about this, but this is a public art commission up at Kolb Road. This is from Sabino Canyon up to Sunrise. And it's very exciting because this is when I start to work with, you know, collaborate with a metal artist. And so it's kind of taking mosaics in a completely different dimension, and it's very exciting. And then we thought we'd go through and just show you a couple of our favorite projects to kind of tell you a little bit more about our process too.
Yeah, so this is a project I did in South Tucson. And, you know, this particular project was very challenging, finding a way to make the art represent the community, and me being kind of an outsider from demographic of folks that live in that area. I actually went to 3 neighborhood schools and got art from the kids on some different themes. And we designed manhole covers and installed 55 manhole covers throughout South Tucson. And those are just a couple of the designs, and then their manhole covers. And then put a lot of that kids' art also into this kiosco, which is, you know, basically a gazebo, right? So that was a challenging and fun project right there, working, you know, heavily with the community.
One of my favorite projects was Alma Wash project. And this is on the pedestrian walkway along the Rito, and it's between Swan and Craycroft on the south side. And so this large bridge, 300 feet long, and it was just cement, and it had just kind of like this inset area that was blank. And so my idea was kind of to bring the sparkle and color of water back into the area. So I used 2 tons of marbles, little glass marbles, And I filled up the whole inside area of the bridge. And it was, you know, it was really exciting. It was very exciting to see 2 tons of marble getting delivered at my house, just this big pile. And it was before I have one child who's now 11. But it was before I had him, but it would have been so cool for him to play with all these months. But this project was really cool because I worked on the bridge. At night, I would lay out the section that I was going to install. And then I'd get there 6 o'clock in the morning, work till 11 o'clock. I had my tents. I would do my section of the mosaic. And I was really a part of the community. And it was really neat because I'd had people check on me. People would leave little notes in my tents. So I had, you know, bridge mail, is what I called it. And I just felt really a part of the community. I felt like they knew what they were getting. They saw me doing it. It was very much a community feel to it. And so I think that's why this project stands out to me a lot. Because I just have, you know, it's almost like this emotional connection. So I remember the people there and they remember me. And this is the project, you know, individually we have our own, you know, projects and, you know, ideas. And this is a commission. This is my Kolb Road commission. And I was very excited. I wanted to take, you know, up in that area, Sunrise and Kolb, there's these beautiful wildflowers, but they're teeny tiny. And I thought it would be a really cool idea. And my concept that I presented was to take, you know, this form of, you know, this flower bursting out of the earth and make it giant. And so I had this idea, but I didn't know a metal artist yet. And so I was kind of shopping around, and through a contractor, I met Jason. And I told him my idea, and my idea originally was more realistic, more like, here's flowers. But then it didn't fit, because we made a model, and I looked at it, and I didn't like it, because I wanted something more organic. And, you know, I had many meetings with the community, and, you know, we talked about, you know, they wanted something that was kind of timeless, something that wasn't like stereotypical imagery. So I came up with this kind of shape of this bursting, kind of a bursting petal. And so when I met Jason, you know, I told him my idea, and, you know, we worked together, and he really came up with some ways to make this mosaic, you know, that I wanted to see in 3D. We could work together and make it, and it was just really exciting. And so this is showing you on the left, this is the large sculpture. There's actually 8 sculptures. There's 3 12-foot sculptures that are going in the roundabout by Bashas, if you know that area. And then from Sabino Canyon up to the roundabout, there's 5 6-foot sculptures. And so, you know, we worked and planned out a lot of this, and the 2 mosaics in the middle are some of the final product. And I was hoping to be able to show you them installed, but they're not going to be installed until the 15th. We just hired the crane yesterday, so I'm very excited because right now they're laying in Jason's yard. But I'm so excited to have, you know, crane come out, pick them up, transport them, and then we'll put them up. And then the picture on the bottom right, that's just a model that I did initially to show, once the idea is developed, that I could show everybody so that people could see what they're getting. But this was kind of the beginning of our working together, you know, as an artist team. And it was just so exciting to be able to see, you know, mosaic in 3 dimensions. Excellent. And then this is just to show some of the projects we've done, just having fun with mosaics and metal. This is a shed Jason built for me on the left, upper left. And just like fun little mosaics. I created these things called garden pots. And they're just yard art. There's a sample up here. I call them garden popsicles because you stick them in the ground, and, you know, I like to say they look like candy for your garden. But it was a fun collaboration because I drew out the form, and then Jason makes them, And then all these projects that I do, I have all this extra tile, and so I just use that extra tile and make cool, colorful things that people can put in their yard. And then we've done a gate together, couple gates, and then the picture on the right is just kind of a fun way of showing off these garden plots. But it really kind of just, we were kind of exploring how to combine these two mediums.
All right, I think as far as time goes, so we just finished installing artwork at Fire Station 9 in Tucson. This is on Wilmot between Broadway and 22nd. And, for example, upper left is this 25-foot gate, which we saw as a blank canvas where we could put these waves of color. We worked with children from the neighborhood and we even sent out a call to the firefighters' kids to get artwork. So the kids' art there is powder coated steel and mosaic, kind of Robin and my stuff together. And then the bench, kind of at the entrance of the fire station, is woven fire hose and a stainless steel frame. And then we go to the next one. Inside the lobby, we did this objects mural, kind of similar to Robin's piece from Mount Lemon with the artifacts. Putting together some of this is antique objects and fire tools and things like that. The number 9 lights up. This is in the lobby of the fire station. And then some of you may have seen the sculpture on Wilmot. So this was really exciting. We did a photo shoot with the firefighters from the station to create this silhouette. And so these guys are 10 feet tall. The footing is about 24 feet wide. And then it lights up, of course. And that's one thing I'm really interested in is, right now is doing sculpture that lights up.
This was a really exciting project too, because, when we were hired, the fire station people just basically said, okay, here's what we have. You guys come up with something cool. And so we were able to come up with quite a few different projects to kind of pull the art all the way around the building. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, and you can see here with this, we kind of believe that over a few mile stretch of road, we envision doing, maybe 2, 3, 4 locations to kind of spread the art out. I wouldn't want to have just one piece in 2 or 3 miles. We would like to sort of share the love along the corridor a little more is kind of the idea. This is a kind of a private art gazebo I did with a guy in the foothills, putting art glass into a frame that I built with some kind of artfully shaped petals going around the edge and then painted the whole thing. But just have a lot of experience working with people, finding out what they want, and then making it happen. Going through all the logistics.
And then the Q&A, so, Mike?
Sure. We have a couple of slides that we might reference because they answered some of the questions. But so if you could keep the lights down still. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for us right now? Yeah.
Do you have any particular vision or ideas of the space presentation?
It's so wide open, and I think the way we work is we take kind of a shared approach. So we would want to see, who's involved, what we want to talk with the people in that area and kind of come up with an idea. So it's not just us saying, here, let's put this, but more of like a community, interaction.
And one of the reasons we brought these models is to show you, this is part of our process, is going to some town hall meetings, sending emails out maybe to the homeowners association through the presidents, getting ideas back, us making some models, putting some things together, and then going back to the people in a meeting like where the project manager would put slides up of the road, but also say, the artists are here to present, get feedback. We really love working with people. And I think, it's important to say we're humble enough to not really have our own agenda, but to want to work with folks, see what their vision is, and really like we work for you, You know what I mean? And we want to build your art and not just that we have some idea already in mind and, okay, not going to listen to you. I'm just going to put up and make the thing that I want. So that's kind of how we.
But we do think it's pretty exciting because with mosaic and metal, you know, you can bring color to metal, and you can also bring a lot of durability, and you can get all these different forms and fill it with color. So there's a lot of ways to, you know, come up with creative. So that's exciting.
Any other questions?
Can you give us an example of something else that you've done in it with the same amount of money that we have to work with for this project?
You know, I did a roadway project on the west side of town where these models were kind of for that. And at 4 different locations, we had a couple of these walls with some sculptural benches in between. So these were meant to shade the benches for seating. It was a transportation project with multi-use paths on both sides. So people were, you know, running, walking dogs, riding bikes. So the idea was to create shade and seating. And in meeting with the neighborhood folks, that's what they wanted. They said, we'd like you to reference nature. We would love for these pieces to be quasi-functional, you know, seating and shade. And so felt like we really delivered on exactly what they wanted. You know, so we had different colors. Each of these shade walls had a different pattern. You know, ocotillos and prickly pear and, you know, this kind of branchy stuff. So that's an example. That was 140,000. And again, speaking to what I said before about, hey, let's have 4 sites, not just one, where we have, you know, a wonderful, you know, rendezvous place or something. 2 on the south side, 2 on the north side of that road. Yeah.
How big were the walls?
They were 20 feet wide and 12 feet tall. And they actually curved, you know, just in one way like this. But as I made this one up, I shaped it a little more.
My Kolb Road project, that one has 8 sculptures, and that was half the budget. That project was 92,000. And you know, I took that and I wanted, again, like what we're talking about, is spreading it out, so it's not just one big giant thing.
You know, actually, before I answer one of the questions Will sent us, are there any other questions you guys have? I know another one of the talking points was, you know, how have you learned to work within budget and time restraints? I think, you know, we've been doing this long enough. We've gained a lot of experience. We've been welcomed back, so we must have a good reputation for delivering. You know, we've had projects before where we've offered a little too much, and we've learned the hard way that, gosh, we should have only said we would do, you know, I mean, certainly fewer things. But I think the experience we've had is great to be able to give enough, but not too much. And, you know, we've worked with many engineers and project managers, transportation to, you know, fire stations.
We're very open, you know, we're very easy. We like making sure there's an open communication too. And so I think that keeps us on task, you know, and track so that we're, you know, we'll share with you what's going on. We'll listen as, you know, the progress continues.
Well, I wanted to say too, my zip code is Vale, 85641. So I live just a few miles away from this road. So it's not like I'm, you know, 20 miles away. It's kind of my neighborhood. And did you? Yeah, that was actually only 70. That's the one where we learned, like,
Yeah.
okay, we did a lot for that one.
But during that project was COVID and everything like exploded with prices. So what we had budgeted, it was just, everything was like 3 times more.
Yeah, a lot of my metal pieces doubled in price or tripled, you know, for the same thing.
So, but yeah, I mean, we love that project, how it came out. But it was really.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing is like we committed to make certain pieces, and so we weren't going to change that.
Yeah.
We followed through and made everything we said we would, and you know, we got great. it.
On page 3 minutes. And also, if anyone wants to take a restroom break, you know.
If you come up with questions right now too, that's fine.
Yeah, and they're perforated like that.
If you built something like that, could you put figures in there, like say bike riders or people walking or using, you know, the
Since it's so close
multi-purpose,
to multi-path.
yeah,
Right.
the multi-purpose
Right.
path.
To have kind of an exercise
Yes.
theme perhaps and
Yes.
run with that in some way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of hummingbird, is that copper in there?
Yeah, it's copper and aluminum.
Would that eventually?
If it was left raw, it would. If we clear coat it, then it would seal it. Yeah. This was a high school student who designed this, and then I cut it out for him. Yeah. What's that?
Hummingbird.
You know, it was her own version of, I think, just a bird generally. But if you see it as a hummingbird, then that's good.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
about the school.
Yeah.
Crossing sign. I was just curious, was that like a model for a larger?
Yeah, this is actually at Sabino High School. It was also a transportation project, this safe routes to schools. And as it turned out, we ended up putting this, through TUSD, putting this on school property. So it was a little bit of, I don't think that had ever been done between the Arts Foundation and city, the school district. But yeah, this is 10 feet wide, 10 feet front to back. I believe the female figure was, 6 feet tall. This was 7 feet. And this was partially designed together with a student and working with the advanced art class. The idea that, one is fully 3D and kind of picking the other one up. And then his head right here has a little bit of dimension. So it's like he's slowly coming to life kind of thing. So, this is just an example of if we wanted a post somewhere, it doesn't have to be straight. I've done patio posts for people where we remove the wooden straight beams and put in something like this with heavy pipes that have been bent. And I mean, you could park a car on top of this. It's so strong. Imagine this is a 3-inch pipe or something with other smaller pipes. So this is what I enjoy, a lot doing with metal, or, this is a model for a bench. I actually did a bunch of benches for the Atterbury Wash Greenway right behind this building, 13 of these. And, so all these parts on the bottom are steel and they've been heated and bent and shaped. So just the idea of making a different type of vertical, strong.
Just out of curiosity, how hot does that thing get in the summer?
Yeah, well, these are actually cast concrete in the top. So thinking that the concrete is a little less hot than steel, right? So that was the goal, to not have a metal top, but
I was kind of thinking about sitting down.
Yeah.
They're actually not bad. It's actually right behind our office. This is the walking path.
Yeah.
And so when I'll be out there walking and I'll pick up the phone and I'll have a little seat on there. It's not bad, actually.
It's gonna be a long walk.
It is, that's why I think
Conversation.
We're at time. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Very well.
all right, nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing the demonstration.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, it was very interesting. I like it.
Right. They helped me.
They help.
Yeah. No, they're my employees.
Paid employees.
No, I pay them. Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know what.
I need to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it like.
And I'm like, kind of like.
I've never seen a piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like his stuff very much.
I don't like
Hopefully there'll be more.
Good, I brought backup just in case.
Should be good. It looks like it went up.
Yeah.
There we go. Yes. The very first one.
Are you gonna work both sides of the room? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'll let you guys keep going.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's stand together so they don't get confused. Yeah, hi. I'm Simon Donovan.
I'm Ben Homestead.
And we live here in Tucson, and we've been working together for about 17 years doing public art projects here locally and around the country. And we're really excited to be here and to have this opportunity. So we have a lot of slides, and we're just gonna go through them quickly, and we're gonna try to answer the questions at the same time. This is a piece up in Scottsdale called Aspire. It's near the Scottsdale, it's a small airport they have for private planes, the Air Park. And so it's meant to be a man kind of taking off kind of stopgap animation, or it could be three people kind of acrobatic, one taking off into flight. And it's made out of, go to the next slide. It's made out of thousands of stainless steel washers that are individually welded together by Ben. Basically,
This one was totally done by.
yes, it was. You know, I created some plaster forms of the figures, and he welded around the forms, and then we cut them in half, and then took the plaster forms out. And next. And, oops, we're missing a slide, I think. Go back. No? Okay, just those two. All right, next one. This is a similar project. Anyway, it's illuminated from within. And this is in New Orleans. This is called, We Stand on the Shoulders of Those That Came Before Us. And this was a tribute for post-Katrina, for all the hospital staff that stayed and worked and saved all these people during that, without electricity during the thing, and it's in front of the medical center.
They built a new hospital, the old hospital was
Destroyed in the hurricane. So next. And this is it illuminated at night, and it's 30 feet tall, and you know, this was, and we drove across country with this, which was ourselves, and it was quite an experience. Yeah, anyway, next. This is by the streetcar at Helen here in Tucson. We were the artists for the streetcar project, where we were assigned 5 other artists, stops, and a theme of flow. And this is outside the Poetry Center. And so this is a local poet. So it's made out of thousands, again, I like little details coming together, of individually welded together stainless steel letters that are like the refrigerator magnet letters that we had cast or laser cut out. And again, it was made over a mold. Next. And this is it illuminated at night. And there's a reader board, electronic reader board next to it, and there's fresh poetry. We set up an agreement with the Poetry Center in the city to display fresh poetry each month throughout the streetcar line on reader boards. Next. This is a close-up.
So this is the poet, and he's meant to be like the the originator, where the actual poetry comes from.
Yeah. And this was actually a local poet. We chose him because he had a nice prominent nose and he was bald. But he's actually a pretty successful poet too. So next. And actually this is, we had small models first, and then so we had these molds that we had made, and Ben then cast some concrete things. This is in front of a coffee shop.
In front of my shop, actually. Yeah, I had some
Next
free
to-
time.
yeah.
I was playing around with some of the kind of like the props and molds that we used to come up with that previous piece.
So, and I guess the reason I'm showing you this is because when it comes to materials, we're gonna, there's pretty much nothing that we haven't tried. We've used stone, we've used glass, we've used concrete, laser cut steel, stainless steel. Pretty much our vocabulary is pretty broad. So next. And this is called Run, and this is in Lubbock, Texas, in front of Texas.
It's the Texas Tech football stadium.
Right.
Their athletics department.
And I don't know, you guys are probably familiar with the horses on Houghton that kind of disappear. It's the same thing. And so as you go by, she disappears as if she's running. Next. And this is it illuminated at night, and you get a sense of scale because that's Ben standing there.
That's me working on the lights, actually. So it's the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Yeah.
So they're really into red lights.
Yeah. So, okay, next. And these are the horses on Houghton. Now, this project we did with Laurie Slinning, which was a good friend of ours, who and she created the maquettes, and then we scanned them and then blew them up and created these forms out of laser cut steel. And so it's kind of topographic, and then it disappears. And after working with her, we applied for another job on Houghton Road that you might be familiar with, which is the Stone Ponies. But during the course of that, she ended up dying of ovarian cancer. But we decided to go forward and honor her and make her still our collaborator and use the form to create the Stone Ponies. Next. Okay, next. You get the. I think you guys are familiar with this, probably. This is kind of your hood. Yeah. All right, next. Okay. And we did the walls too, the form letters on the walls for a sense of continuity. So, and these are the Stone Ponies. So we took her maquettes and we blew them up, and I made plaster molds, and then Ben welded around the plaster molds. And in working on this job, we drove and like I made the benches, put every stone in by hand with the glass, and so I spent, I don't know, a couple of months back and forth driving Valencia, so I am so familiar with this roadway. And in fact, it's the intimacy of the roadway, and it really does give me, whenever we're driving around Tucson, you look at the landscape and you think of, how can we affect it? At least I do. And how can we add to it if there's something to be added? And, there's such the expansiveness of the desert is just so impressive, but it also makes you realize that anything you put is going to seem very tiny in the landscape. And so that's a consideration. And I'll talk about that later. Okay. So these are Stone Ponies. Next. And this is the elephant at Reed Park Zoo on 22nd Street. This was fun making. We actually made it on site. We had models that we worked from, but we had pre-cut pieces, and we assembled it in front of the public eye and interaction, which is always interesting. That was true for putting the rocks and making the benches on Houghton, in that a lot of interaction with bicyclists and pedestrians, and a lot of feedback and from the community, and appreciation. I would say 99%, so that's good. You know, but
This piece was a lot more kind of like improv in that it was, you know, all these pieces that looked very, very abstracted as we were putting it together.
Yeah,
people were really confused by it.
yeah, they're like, is it an alien? Is it, you know, like all sorts of weird comments, but then it finally came together.
Yeah, and it was, you know, we were like building it together, and it's like, you know, turn it to the left, each little piece, and it was like, no, your other left, turn it, and
yeah,
and it all came together, and then finally, you know, we got the ears and the trunk and the tusks up there. People started to recognize it as an elephant. We're like, oh, thank goodness.
Next. And these are boulders up on McGee Road. And a lot of these projects are around the same budget as what we have here on Valencia Road. So that's, you know, get a sense of that. And these have, you know, cactus growing out of them. So these are, you know, meant to echo the background of the Catalinas in that spot. I am referring to my little cheat sheet here, sorry, but because I want to make sure I get all the questions answered. How do we approach developing our design concepts? Well, one of the things we do, like in this case, we, you know, sat on the space and we looked around and just really meditated on what is appropriate for this space in terms of visual relationships, sight lines, organic forms, geometric forms, what's appropriate for the community, what's appreciated, what's representative of the community, like, you know, what will people respond to? We like doing things that are populist, that are readily understood and appreciated.
That's really, really important to us.
It is. And, you know, because it's, you know, it's public art. It's not, you know, so we want to appeal to as many people as possible. But that's how we evolve our ideas. And then, and so what we do is we usually come up with a few concepts after we kind of take all those things into consideration, especially if there's community feedback. And that's where the community comes in. Like if you say, you know, we really want you to pay more respect to the history, the local history, or, you know, in the case like on Houghton Road, when we first did our proposals, people were really responsive to, you know, horse communities and, you know, stables and things, local, you know, things that happened out here. And so we just grabbed that as an element, and that was something that we could really embrace and get into. And so that's kind of how things happen. We come up with a few ideas, and then we present them, and we say, well, this, and we try to get, you know, a few kind of varied approaches so that, you know, you have some distinct choices. And certainly we like to approach committees. I mean, that's the first one, but we also, if we have the opportunity to do a broader forum, or, you know, be it online or whatever, or in person, we make presentations and we get people to vote, and to, you know, we solicit feedback. Okay, next. And next. This is up in, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to zoom through now.
5 minutes until Q&A.
Oh, hey, okay. Okay, so this is up in Tempe. This is, we did 5 streetcar stops where we designed the ceiling glass and these panels that are made out of
it's aluminum. It's routed aluminum panels
that create these photographic images through shadow. And go back, because I think this is a crowd pleaser. Yeah, so you know, this is the ceiling, and you're looking up at these life-size dog and cats on the ceiling looking down at you. So we had this, so it's like photographic stained glass, which is like kind of an awesome thing. And so that's what we did. And so we had butterflies and
the different stops had different themes.
Different themes, yeah. Flowers. This was the skateboard stop, and that's a close-up that shows you how this creates the shadow.
So it's just a machine, yeah, like a grayscale. It literally just cuts and carves these flat aluminum panels so that there's negative space. The the black that you're seeing is negative space, and the
Shadow.
silver is the actual aluminum.
Yeah.
And so we just take these. Simon took photographs, and
I photographed local people on the streets of Tempe in the neighborhood, and then
we put it into a program
Yeah.
and the
Created
aluminum's
that.
cut out.
next.
So that's the skateboarders.
Yeah, next.
scaling.
That's magnifying glass was one theme. Next. This is actually Ben's daughter. She was not harmed in the photograph.
I was right on.
We built this cage, kind of metal frame with this 1-inch thick plexi, and photographed her from underneath, and as well as this friend's child. So yeah, next. This is in Dallas. This is Love Field Airport. These propellers actually turn. These are life-size figures that are hanging in front of a mural that we did next. So, and yeah,
So
Dallas Love Field Airport.
we love doing, whimsical pieces.
Whatever's appropriate for the site. You know.
Airports tend to be stressed out, and you can be kind of draining. So we figured we want to lighten up the mood a little bit in an airport environment.
Next. This is Folklorico. So this is another community-driven project in El Paso. They wanted a Mexican fiesta theme for this park. And so they're like, hey, well, we're both white boys, and, should we be doing this? And they're like, no, this is what we want. And I said, okay, this is what we can get into. So like in terms of forms. And so this is what we did. So next. So these were actually painted cast bronze, and
So these are the different forms that we're carving out. For cast bronze, you take clay. In this example, you take clay and you carve out the different forms. And that's the actual piece before it's painted, the kind of folklorico dress colors.
I like this photograph because it's so cinematic. It's kind of cool. This is a foundry here in Tucson. Next. And then this is it painted, and then the road next. Delivering it.
Driving it out to El Paso.
So yeah, next. And installing it. Next. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is called Tribute, and it's in front of the American Memorial Legion. And next. And it's, so this is a relief, and it's the same thing as the horses, but with another innovation next, where on the back side is an American flag. And so the images bleed through, so you get both at the same time. And
This is the American Legion Stadium, Memorial Stadium that we placed this.
Yeah, next.
So we're celebrating the different branches of the military, which is very important to them.
Next. And so here you can see the bleeding through of the flag and everything at the same time. And we felt really cool about this. This was our last year. Next. This is Unity on Grant, same technique, and also driven by the neighborhood in terms of, this kind of battles between neighborhood associations, who gets what, and next. And so Unity was our theme. Next. Okay, next. And this is what we're working on right now, and we're going to install next month. It's called The Creative in front of the Boston Arts Academy. It's a young woman imagining. And it's right across from Fenway Park entrance. Next. This is next. And this has been working on it. Next. These are the parts that are going together. And this is another innovation of ours where it's laser cut. All these holes are laser cut.
So now you can see through in both planes.
Both directions this time.
It's not just seeing through the actual planes, now you're able to see through the holes.
And seeing inside, you'll see this spiral, which represents creativity, and it's called The Creative. Next. And this is what it'll look like at night. Next. And this is East Valencia Road, which brings us to this project. And I talked about the huge expansiveness of it and how anything is going to be diminished in the landscape next. Yeah, so this is UA Tech Park next. This is Houghton Road. And even this, is pretty, and, a lot is informed by what the plans are for the road and for the city and for private development. And there's a lot of information that we need to get, as we develop ideas. Next, this is Oldville Road. And, like this is one of the things, if we did a singular piece, that it would probably, choosing an intersection like this would be good next, in that you stop and have time to contemplate it and have interaction with it. But not necessarily. I mean, we have to hear from the community and from the project managers as to what is wanted, and in terms of multiple pieces, place markers, like wayfinding. There's all sorts of approaches that we're open to it. Next. And I think that might be it. Next. Yeah, that's it. East Valencia Road.
So we gotta get the questions.
Yeah, questions.
The last piece you showed, what was the cost on that?
200, the which one? The creativity is 250,000.
That's 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be
Yeah.
almost 8 feet wide, at the head,
And that actually comes to the question about how do you manage budget and timing. And because it is important, and with this one, like what happened in the course of getting this, we had the pandemic and supply chain problems, and the cost of stainless steel doubled in the course of production. So there, we've learned the hard way about budgeting and, time management and things like that. I mean, there are certain things that are out of our control, but we're pretty savvy in how we go about it. So the way we do it is like, we kind of work backwards. Once we come up with a few ideas and we start to kind of, well, Ben always pulls me back to reality because I'm kind of pie in the sky and he's much more practical, I will admit it. And he'll say, Simon, that would be like $3 million. I'd say, okay. So
it's good to have two people, actually. It's
Yeah,
like an
it
example of just, well, for lots of different reasons. We're not gonna miss any meetings if one of us is sick.
Yeah, just project management and control, and we both bring different talents to the table, and it's really been a good working relationship. Plus, we tend to have fun. We have a sense of humor for the most part. Yeah, and I'm funnier than
What's that?
We thought he was doing the work though.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. Good point. But I'm the thinker. Anyway, so
No, we both think and we both work.
I actually, he does the welding. I mean, I do other hands-on
There's
stuff.
a division of labor, but yeah, no, we have a lot of different talents and we bring them together.
Yeah.
So that's how.
So, yeah, we're equal in design and fabrication. And but yeah, knowing we work backwards and we assume how long is, like for like say the skirts, how long is it going to take to carve those? How long is it going to take to, to have them cast? How about painted? And we kind of work backwards and think, okay, that fits within the time frame. The foundry's going to charge us this much for this scale. So you kind of, you get pricing, you figure it out, and then you kind of adjust accordingly. So,
So you got a lot of different materials. Which one costs the most, which one costs less?
Stainless steel would cost the most right now, because a lot of it comes from Russia and the Ukraine, the nickel, and that's not great. So that's kind of, and that's something that we like to work with. However, like in Tucson, like mild steel does really well. It does it because of our climate. So that's a good plus.
Yeah, and that's also a really complicated question. I mean, it depends on where you are at. 1 week stainless doubles in price, literally, because Putin attacks Ukraine.
Yeah.
So these things change very much. depending on where you are at, especially these days. Cast bronze is also extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Depends on what the price of copper is
Right.
at that moment and what's going on. So yeah,
Cast concrete is relatively inexpensive, and we only showed you, we've done 25 projects or 26 projects together, and we have cast concrete projects. We have rock, carved rock, we have engraved rock, we have all sorts of things that we can do.
Material in the airport, the figures.
Those figures were actually, this is kind of weird. I actually scanned people that we knew, and then with a 3D scanner, and then had them 3D printed.
so it's plastic.
It's plastic.
Those are ABS plastic.
Those are 3D printed people, and then I painted them to look like realistic denim and things like that. So like in realistic leather, I did all the painting effects, but those are actually 3D printed.
That's an
people.
example of something that takes way too long, and you have to rein it in as far as keeping
Yeah.
things on budget and on time.
Yeah, but we got lucky with that. We did, and that was actually a relatively small budget. That was like $65,000, and we did a giant mural.
Yeah, and that's also, the mural behind that was a whole nother
And that was
cost.
printed on aluminum. Yeah, so
Probably not a great, material for outdoor. show.
no, it's not. No.
Although that we did, because there's these huge banks of windows, those do get a lot of exposure, and we were really conscious of that. And we picked a plastic that's gonna hold up the longest to UV lights
And the paint coatings and things
But
like that.
absolutely,
But
that is
no.
an indoor piece 100%.
Yeah. The desert environment is harsh in terms of paint, and we've done a lot of painted things like those skirts. And like I did, my first project was the Woods Library, these flying books, which are still, holding up. Actually, I repainted them once, but we use this really toxic paint, which I hope never to use again. But you have to wear a suit with petroleum jelly on all exposed skin and stuff. It's crazy. So, but it's really long lasting.
If you want something that's guaranteed for 25 years.
Yeah. Right. I wouldn't let him use it because he might reproduce, and I didn't want to affect. It's like, yeah.
That's not true. I totally used it.
And unfortunately, you did have a kid, but whatever. Anyway. Yeah. So yeah, we can do pretty much anything in terms of materials, and anyway, that brings us back to working with community, getting feedback, and kind of getting a sense of what is appropriate in terms of scale, what is representative of neighborhood identities. Yeah, we're sensitive to that, and we listen. We really do, and then we form our ideas after that.
Are there any more questions? Any tough questions or?
Yeah, give us the hard one. Give us the doubt one.
We're at time, but I'm gonna throw a hard one in there.
Yeah, hardball.
You already have a concept, since you looked at this road and you were driving down this road back and forth every day with your
Yeah.
trailer full of rocks.
I do have a few, but I don't want to play them yet. I mean,
But you.
Sure,
have the
sure.
vision.
yes, I have a few different ideas in mind, but it would really be responsive to the road plans, whether there are different neighborhoods, that have a stake in this and that each want something, or if one piece is appropriate. So like I hesitate to say, the budget of this is not enormous. I know it seems like it is, but it's not in terms of public art. So it seems like it might be like one nice piece or several small things. But small things will get lost in the landscape. So I'm more inclined to something distinctive, something memorable, something that's, a crowd pleaser, and that creates an identity for the area. So.
And everything like Simon mentioned, and it's all contingent on what's going on with the project as far as the different neighborhoods and different interests and stakeholders. Of course, we take that into consideration, so we can.
Kind of take into consideration that it's going to be close to the loop. And so something kind of sort of in that
Yeah,
general.
I mean, when I was driving every day, I would see all these cars pulling off to ride
Yes.
bicycles. They'd all park together
Yes.
and they'd do their ride, you know, like,
Something
and then,
along
and I would think,
that
okay,
type of-
like there are certain places where people, you know.
I'm an
are
avid
focused.
cyclist, and so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just
absolutely.
kind of a tribute to the loop.
The loop,
and
sure.
the people that use it because it is really used.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that was one of the feedback that when we were working out on Houghton, that, you know, like people were really kind of just really very interactive and responsive and very positive crowd, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
very much.
thanks. All right. See you again. Yeah. All right.
I was wondering, I mean, I have a long sleeve shirt on.
I don't know.
In the car, I have to sweat.
So let's talk, you know, that brings up a question.
Because I mean, for something that I have an interest in, but.
Oh, actually, that works out. So.
You have, you know, putting it out there. People doing bond.
Let's just do
Whereas if you have it out.
that way, because Don, I think sure.
Let's say, you know, once they're necessary. Or if that's.
Everyone, we're gonna take a little bit of a break, and then we can start deliberations in 5 minutes. And yeah, and we need to get set up on our end too, so hopefully you can see what you're deciding. And then so 5-10 minute break, and we'll come back here and jump right into deliberations.
10 minutes.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah, let's do 10 minutes. And you're allowed to stay, you're just not allowed to vote.
Okay. Very interesting. Well, I apologize on Instagram
great.
and all of that, so
Excellent.
I just want to get more involved, so.
I'm not sure we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we live in the neighborhood, so we drive there all the time, and yeah.
I don't know what's the easiest way to tell you this, but there is a place to apply to become a panelist. So we'll have all of our upcoming projects, we have like 4 or 5 projects right now that are the burner panels. If we take down your email, then I can send you that information. We're building a new website, and the website, hopefully you'll be able to find yourself. But yeah, you'll see the projects that are coming, and they're open to all, like, residents.
The loop.
But if you live in the neighborhood, there's
No, it's on there.
like you fly, and then there'll be a selection. Usually by the
Houghton is just,
panelists or the
it's just
ward.
another greenway. Eventually it'll be like, okay, and then, you know, it's the same. But if you ride the loop, you're gonna be on there. There's.
Happy New to meet you.
Yeah, but actually, as I said, I realized that I could be 40%. It was,
Dot. Handbag, SJN.
configuration.
Yeah, so we'll reach out.
Right.
That's the way it is.
So how does that work?
It's all done.
Basically, the community input. Yeah, so the project.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it's,
And
kind
then-
of like the project.
But we're making arrangements right there to share. That's why I like to do it there. But they were saying, you know, they like have two. Oh,
That's so fun. Yeah, oh my gosh. It's crazy. I love it so far. I know, yeah, but I
Yeah, they're 83. Yeah, it's all right.
Just even listening to
How
ours.
long?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, this, like, yeah. Great point. Really like that.
I think it was right
There's so
around.
many things to consider. Yeah.
I think the one thing, so for actually the project right there that's up right now.
Exactly, like,
In the roundabout, those three pedals
together,
there. are
like, how
like 12 feet high
everyone getting
each.
something they're
And
totally
then they still put in like
comfortable,
5
like,
other 6-foot high ones.
yeah, it's fun.
Hoping for a similar budget.
Totally.
But I think the key is like those are fairly simple and they're
Yeah,
not
they
like
are.
super detailed, so you can get more mass
Yeah.
for the dollar.
Yeah, and they had a good location with the roundabout, a lot of people do that on the roundabout.
So we don't want them to walk out and take pictures of selfies, but.
Yeah, nobody wants to go. That downtown one that Joseph was talking about downtown with children, people take selfies of that. Right.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm serious, people just think, you know, that's the first thing they do when they get to children.
Have you seen the deer up on Tangerine? They're pretty cool, but they're pretty large, like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, people like to stop on the side of the road.
So, that's good. Even though we're keeping the speed really low, it's gonna be, we don't really want to. Right. 6 lanes.
Convenient parking lot right there.
Yeah. It's 40. It's 45 now. I know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We're gonna do a symmetry.
But anyway, they're gonna.
Very similar.
Well, it's funny, like, the last time,
That's fun for kids,
one of the
but
last
like at the same
meetings
time,
was
like,
that,
they all.
the
Like you guys?
for Valencia and Kolb. And I said, and now?
Yeah, I was hoping you could do it from your
Make it 2 lanes.
with the computer point of view.
I said, it's ridiculous, the original concept is 1 lane.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's ridiculous. So,
Yeah, when we come back,
so
we'll
that was
do a
that was my
test.
contribution. and I was-
It looks like, I mean, if you can hear everyone, then they can hear.
Oh, no, I think it is, yeah, I mean, I don't have no complaints, you know, I live that in Houghton, Riga, so I can get on to. Yeah, they call us after on my house. Well, you get to,
Way- I loved
I
that
get the
it
freeway,
had these sort of like
3 or 4 different ways.
3D
Yeah, I
waves,
mean,
like,
yeah, I didn't.
you could just see a kid going along and wanting to touch it, and then stepping back and having it.
Not really, no, I mean, some more than what it was, but not noticeable.
Well, it's actually that project right there.
I'm really seeing.
I was just saying, some of these guys.
Or notice.
And then they go like 5
Maybe I
hours.
can put some.
Well, I think they.
Maybe I can do that video together and a lot of stuff.
Oh,
Is that right? Yeah. Right, well, I mean, just south of that.
We put it on the backyard.
So there's the one in the backyard, right, right.
So I think it was, but, yeah, we're doing this. Yeah, I was saying like, the well market.
I'm not gonna say
It's
always
always
They're not.
You go out the house.
He just wants huge.
And things over, there's gonna be a lot of truck traffic. You also have. That's, so. There's gonna be a lot of construction.
I've not been
Traffic.
in there.
Okay, that should work. I'm just gonna.
They were on.
5,000 houses. You'll come back. I built my house 20 years ago. And it's,
Okay, yeah, let's do that, because right now they're just looking at those slides. Maybe not showing one. So, yeah, whenever you're ready, I'll go ahead and share.
And then, I was on, yeah, so I did my heart.
I've got enough to see that, and just stare at the flex.
My heart three were all when I was in the White House. And I just sent up with him and, work, the whole time.
Yeah.
And then now,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
now
I think I know what
I'm
my-
building my new heart three now. Because I jumped from lieutenant captain.
Certainly better.
So now I'm just, I have to say, please, thank you for another year and, then I'll have my heart reset, Actually, so I was in the system, because I was talking to yeah, so I have, 24 years in the system, so, and, have all these experience and, so, but it has. I have no, very, very nice. I've had those, I've seen the best person work hours. And now after December, was that? Well, after December, when I'm going to school, I'm starting
So we like interviewed.
so I need to, so I need to, yeah, same, and, so now I'm, how many roads, I'll live like this, so I have no excuse.
Get out there and projects. We use a lot of LA help. So that would.
I like the night time. I like the night time.
Yeah, we do adult work. That's one good thing.
Yeah. No joke.
Exactly, it's much easier for us to work, whatever you're in, for them, than the other way around. In this case, we have to do it from work.
Right.
We ended up, just squeaking up. I mean, it was like, in fact, we did write out some money. It wasn't for the scale of
Yeah,
project.
basically,
It turned around.
everyone's going.
So we were pretty close to it. Yeah. The criteria.
So, yeah, trying to figure out what the criteria you're speaking to.
Well,
It's right by the law.
Right. So, Rose is describing what.
It is, yeah. I mean, The artists
And then
generally.
there was a series of questions that the artists asked
That's right.
that were
Right.
answered by
For a year, Navy. Right. Like we have one in Roger.
Yeah, so there'll be individual scoring and then a discussion.
The guy who came up with great ideas.
So it's a fun part about it. No, everyone got what is going to be told. Yeah, I mean, we can review the video, took video.
So, you know, it's like.
Well, I can share it.
So,
And to make it clear that there was. Yeah, exactly.
So anyhow, he processed like that, and then, one person. Also, criteria. What do we do?
Panel for what to use to make their decision. That's what I'm saying.
Excuse me, I even got a middle.
Close to having
Oh. Well, I got a red line.
Well, I know, it's not for the time, so it's gonna take a longer. And I got a question for the artist. Maybe in a question form.
And I did, I was looking at my sweatshirt.
Address budget.
Yeah, why would they do it at 69 degrees outside?
And
Arizona, but she has been another theater. It's like, for the original schedule, we said, oh, we should have kind of go plan for it in a month. And we can't even do it
somewhere.
I know it's TCC. Or the Bob. I have to say, that's very true. So it's like, when we finally got to the concept that I'm hoping is going to get approved, like, oh, yeah, like, so I think we have a little bit of something for everyone. We don't have everything, certainly we don't have everything. Right. So.
Yeah, well, they finally put the name back on the one.
Right.
Smart, right?
It's smart. Across the other way.
I've been talking
Line plus point.
to.
I know we voted to.
Much done.
I know. They took measures
So they're aware of that.
on Valencia and thankfully they put small reduction on Old Vale Road.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you could walk up to and you spend the time trying to spell out a word or touching it or like how the kid was there. Whatever, you know, it's like. Yeah, it's just, people would have a personal interaction with that as well as it's like an iconic figure where you like, let's meet at the letterhead.
And like, we don't
They
really have to do much.
get a name.
Just show where they're at.
There.
I know.
but I like that there's like, all ages can interact with that piece without it being like
City boundaries. And on the ballots and stuff, where you could vote, they said, in the Vale area, in Vale. And it was one of the schools that is off of Riga Road. It was kind of like, okay. Because you put that there and you put it into the computer and you're searching for, you know, how to get to where it is. You can't do that because it's not in Vale. Right. It drives my husband nuts. He wants to put a big sign at the corner. This is not Vale.
We're at the last, final and most important part of the process, that's selecting one of those three artist groups for this commission. So we've asked to add some criteria to think about during the voting process. So what we'll do is, and this is that choice by all of you. If you'd like to have open discussions now, or wait until after individual votes have been placed onto the board, and then have a discussion with that in mind, knowing each other's position.
Do you think we could vote and then talk about it and then we could potentially change our votes?
Yeah. So you could, this is just a scoring tab. The ultimate vote will be a verbal vote, all unanimous, hands up on the camera. And that will happen as long as it takes for the decision. And if this has never happened before, if none of those artists feel like the right artist, then we can start all over again. But it'll be another many-month process, which I don't think the project can afford to do. So hands up for those who want to do individual votes first. Okay, 3. So that's a maybe, or well, still, that's still doesn't quite make half. So let's have some. We can open discussions right now, and these are some things to consider. To the artist's aesthetics, their work lend to this type of project. Do they address the budget? Do you think they can work within the budget that we have at $184,000? And did they discuss their approach to community engagement? And then from there, we can just open up.
I do have a question. I wasn't sure. With Robin's presentation, she mentioned that they were going to do multiple structures along Valencia, and I know that we've talked about it being in a particular location. Is it reasonable to expect that she would be able to do that if it works with the project? And
yeah, the artist will work directly with all of you as a group. So any ideas that they have were simply ideas of what they wanted, but the final thing will be their decision. Yes.
I think I'm not sure it's possible to do that, but so you're gonna have smaller. You're gonna have to judge. The other two said it had to be a larger object to be seen. If you have 3 down the corridor, you're not going to see them as much, although you might be closer to the road. I mean, there's trade-offs. That's what I'm saying. If that's something we can fit in, that's fine. We'll get Kevin and we'll get together and figure out. I'm not sure we've got a spot.
We identified 3 or 4 potential locations. I think we talked about the spot by the new trailer parking being an ideal spot, but there were a few other spots where we could do some artwork. And that was based on just how much room was in the right of way, visible.
So I guess if you do 3, I mean, you'll see the 3. If you did 3, you'd see them, but you can't stop because there's no place to stop.
yeah, so it
And
would
we
be
wouldn't
like
want to put people in danger of stopping in the lane, go out there.
well, if they were like, it sounds like from the other project that she's working on, like Kolb, in the middle.
Is it a roundabout in the middle?
Is there going to be a median on?
There is going to be a median in the project. It's How wide is it? I think it's 20 feet. 20 feet wide?
So it's possible, they could put stuff in the middle.
We would rather not do that.
You're not doing it.
People have a tendency to hit them. And
Okay.
we're not gonna go out there and fix them. If they get hit, they're gone. We can't go back to the artist.
So one thing I'll say, so I was the PM on the Kolb Road project that's being finished up now. So I worked with Robin on this project. She did do a great job working with the community. And, so the pieces that were in the roundabout there's 3 of them, each one of them is 12 feet tall, so they're very large. I think she said there's 5 other locations and they're very similar. They're all very similar and it's like the leaf with the tile in it. And they're like 6 foot tall, and those are placed along the, there's also like a multi-use path on that project for sidewalk. So those are placed kind of more pedestrian scale. So at least on that project, she was able to have one, say, much larger location, and then some smaller things also. Not saying she'd do that on this project, but it's potential.
We will make electricity available to anything that no, I think we can make that happen anywhere. If they need electricity, if they want lights, I mean, that seems to be a big thing for people these days. And we're okay with that. So they mentioned that.
Yeah.
10 years from now, it may not be a thing. I don't know. But that seems to be the, you know, the trend, yeah, trend.
I don't know if is the site location available through the website?
Yeah, if you try and click on that where it says 100% design role plot. Yep, right there. We'll see if it loads up here. It's pretty big.
Help us with identifying the locations, and that might help, you know, selecting the artists too. Especially
Yeah, just click on that.
scale.
Download here in a second.
What I was saying, so what I was saying before, if you go down to the Children's Museum downtown, so every little kid wants to go up to an object and take a picture of it. And that seems to be like adult thing. So, for whatever that's worth. So we want to put these things where people can park and safely. Yeah, the parking lot's really for the Harrison Loop. Because as you well know, they already park on that dirt area.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and we talked about that.
That is what you see.
Yeah.
Potential location,
So,
or preferred location.
The church sits like right here. And we're looking, this is the city of Tucson parcel. We're looking at a parking lot here for 20-ish cars. And then they would just hop on the new multi-use path and go over to the loop and up or wherever they want to go. So we were thinking, you know, either here or in here. So it'd be between the road and the parking lot. You'd obviously get a very good view of it if you're on the loop. If you want to park here and you could experience it more. We thought that was a good spot.
Bottom of the road as well, so would people look at it straight on?
Yeah, this is the road.
Or the,
road coming
yeah.
Oh, this road?
Is that where they have the,
Oh, yeah. I think that's the new apartments, right? Yeah, that's one of the entrances to the new apartments. I think it's the main one. The other entrance is here.
So with these, the reason why it would be specifically at the area of the parking lot, it would definitely be visible to drivers.
Absolutely.
if you're looking
If we go with this location.
But we can find
But
other
the church
locations.
is over
We can't find other
here.
spots. Yeah, if you want to pan just a little bit
No,
to the
The
east.
church has to be.
Church is to the
you're
right.
right, you're right, it's right there.
And here's that large cross with you mentioned.
Yeah.
The church, no, the loop is to the right, yeah.
Correct, yeah, and then the loop is immediately,
It
yeah, keep
starts,
going.
it starts down, yeah.
So here's the loop. This is everybody parked, well, you can see like
Yeah, you can.
half a dozen cars there.
Now it's on the.
Everybody parks there. That's obviously not gonna be available anymore. So we're trying to find a new spot for,
So could
for
there
parking.
possibly be something big at the parking lot and then a few little things leading towards the loop?
it could be.
The church is. That's the
Oh, the
property.
church.
Yeah, this is the church. The problem is the right of way, so it's like
Go
right
straight up.
here in front of the church. So there's just not a lot of room. Right away.
Also considering what will be behind it, with the church behind it, as the backdrop, how that would affect. The work where the original location.
I never,
Over here is
Nothing.
much better,
They could do that.
yeah, it is.
because you don't want to put anything that's going to be.
And the reason we picked,
We all-
the other reason we picked this location, because the city of Tucson already owns
Think
the land.
about all.
The other land is going to be sold by state land. And,
Yeah.
that's the residential.
Yeah, we
I
actually
never
wanted to
even
put
thought
the parking
about
lot right next to the loop, but state land said, no, we want more money for homes.
Everybody in front of the church.
The city should have to buy, acquire that.
Yeah, it isn't my
property.
church now.
It's our. And if they're thinking about electricity or it being illuminated at nighttime, I think this is the only location, right? Because you have control over the space and there'll be light there for the parking lot already. Is that correct?
We're not going to light the parking lot. There will be street lighting.
Oh, accessible?
Yeah, so we'll be able to basically, wherever we decide to put the artwork, we'll be able to put a power drop to it.
If it's in this area.
Okay, anywhere along the road.
Okay, great.
We'll figure it out.
Nice. So I'm gonna put the screen back up.
Is that yellow line?
That's the multi-use.
That's like what's from the.
Yeah,
12 feet wide, pretty good size.
Maybe just leave this up.
Yeah, that's the multi-purpose. The yellow one.
Is that gonna go all the way to Kolb?
Right.
Is that gonna go all the way to Kolb?
The art, the multi-purpose path, does it?
Next
I
to
think it
the,
was-
there's existing sidewalk that comes a little bit east of Kolb. We're gonna connect to that.
But that's not 12 feet.
But that's not 12 feet. So it will, as you get too cold, it's gonna narrow up to more of a sidewalk.
We're not sure why. We questioned that.
And a lot of these logistics, you can discuss with the selected artists, because I do believe that also Reed can manage the scope and budget, but it depends on how all of you think about those criteria questions we just had.
But the little yellow connector thing, is that like a little path?
That's, yeah, just a little sidewalk to the parking lot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So like we put like a ADA spot at that end and then they'd be able to get on that.
The art was putting that little section, and it'd be like completely.
So where exactly would you put it?
Yeah, but you'd be able to go all the way.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is a concrete,
Yeah, so it would be like, that would be like a sidewalk.
and it'll be landscaping.
Yeah, there would be
So it
landscaping.
could be, a sort of centerpiece, an accident. In that location with 360 views. Do we want to start talking about artists? We can. No, just
Talk about artists. I don't know.
we can just go in order of how they showed up, and let's have discussion.
Sure.
What do y'all feel about Joe? I know that was probably the beginning started a little bit heated because of some previous work that he had done here. But how do y'all feel about how do y'all feel about Joe's presentation and his aesthetic lending itself to the neighborhood, to the community?
I do like the idea of the community involvement, having people work together to kind of create something that we can.
Yeah, and that's something we can all do together. It's also something that, depending on the involvement of the artist, will come out of their budget if they want. It's something very specific. But if it's something like meeting together, Arts Foundation can help facilitate community meetings, any further ones. But also thinking about that, everyone here is a volunteer panelist, so try not to strain you all too much.
So his time, he will charge his time against the project, so that won't really go against the art creation, is what you're saying. And so that's, I mean, it is a nice thing. I've been through that with him. And it is a nice thing. It's just, you know, it's still dollars.
Okay, what is Joe's,
Everything comes out
what's
of that.
Joe's last name?
O'Connell?
O'Connell, okay,
Yes.
just checking, okay.
Did you go through that process there, Bob?
Yeah, he went through, so we did a little bit different. We were going to do the children, but pandemic came along. We had it all set up, but then what we did is we had an open house during the pandemic, and it turned out to be mostly adults along Grant Road. So we generally went that route. It just wasn't as what we would have liked to have done. But just because of the pandemic, because nobody wanted to expose their kids to.
That's the coyote.
Yeah, and that's where we ended up with the red coyote. So, you know, all these people, you're going to tell them what you want them to build, okay? I mean, they might come with some ideas, which you all appreciate, I'm sure. But if there's something you want them to build, they'll build it. And then they'll use their creative skills and talents to put it together. That's what this is all about, which is much different than how it's always been. But it's always,
The land for the base, because there's like a shooting range, right, that you ride by through Fantasy Island, isn't there? I saw tanks and stuff in there.
That's really normal ones.
The base starts here. So this here is the base, but it's a big kind of L shape. So as you go up the loop, it's also over there. But it's north of this map.
Yeah, the purpose of these panels, the way we're running them now is concurrent with administrative directives and similar to how county does theirs too. We ask the artists to provide a request for qualifications to discuss the past works, their interest, and provide these presentations. And as a panel, a mix up of stakeholders, project managers, community members, your representatives of the community. So as far as the design goes, it's really in your hands to tell the artists, like, this is what our community is like. This is the history of our community, the culture of our community, how we do things in this area, and then the artists will make basically whatever you want within budget and time constraints too. But there's a lot of things that have to come into play. So what will happen after you select an artist is a lot of these talks we're having now, we'll have them individually with the artists. Those are also open to the public. But those more detailed questions can happen there. What you really want to find out now is which of those three artists you think would be best for this project based off of their presentations and the material that they shared with you already.
yeah, I think you're looking for skill and talent right now.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be up to you to be more original as a committee, and with their guidance.
Yeah, they'll make you're not going to come up with the ideas and just make it. Like they'll provide you with whatever that you want. So oftentimes there'll be once that happens and they gain community input about the community, then they'll start generating some designs, and then we'll meet, and then you can discuss with them those designs and start to select one if it's one out of three, or then take one that you really like and shift it until everyone's satisfied, because it has to be panel approved unanimously before we bring it to be approved by the city and other entities. We want to make sure that it's ultimately up to the public, so the public's work belongs to the community, so you should all have the final say in what it is.
In past projects, so a lot of communities, they come up, they have a theme, and I don't know what the theme of the Rita Ranch area, I don't know what their theme is. I can tell you on Grant Road, it was a nature theme, all the different things had to be tied to nature. In Green Valley, I did, it was, they had a nature theme also. I think they ended up with, these flying doves out of the traffic circle, or the roundabout, out of the middle of the roundabout, and they were like in flight. But if you have a theme that kind of goes with Rita Ranch, if you think, you know, I mean, I think on Houghton, there's a lot of horses. I mean, that, obviously that's a theme. I don't know about the cocoon, but the horses seem to be pretty predominant. And I just don't know what your theme is or what you're feeling these days. But that helps.
Yeah, there's real questions to consider when looking at all those three different arts, because they all have three very distinct types of work, and you can see in the presentations and from the materials they sent earlier that, you know, they do stick with their materials, the concepts and designs. Can spread all over, but you can see the type of materials they typically prefer to work in or are, you know, mastered at that level. So considering what materials would be can endure the open desert, with, you know, there aren't many buildings around it, so when storms come through, the amount of heat that's going to be on there, the work needs to be able to sustain that, because maintenance is an issue with these projects because of our harsh weather.
Well, I'll jump in there again.
Yeah.
So if it's a structural unit, then it has to go through the city review for structural and for safety, and so they'll get reviewed by a structural engineer for that too. I mean, they'll do their own structural, the artist, but then I'll have to go to safety in the city to review that also.
Yeah, exactly. So after the design that everyone here selects, the artist has to provide construction plans to send to be reviewed by a risk review, and then after that, they'll come back, and then we'll go for, there might be more meetings. Yeah.
We're still talking about Joe.
We are.
Okay.
I think so.
So I'll jump in. I like to give like a variety of different styles and materials, everything from just the large zoo sign to the coyote, I think looks really cool. And to the, you know, the kinetic structures, just, I don't know. I thought it was a huge variety of different options that we could provide. Kind of cool. That workshop looks huge.
But I have another question on the kinetic stuff. So maintenance, who's responsible for the maintenance on that? So like you showed the one thing where, you know, you pull on it and it starts swinging around and stuff like that. I know that goes to the whole safety and stuff like that. But you know, eventually things wear out. So who's responsible for
the city?
Yeah, but we're going through that right now. There's no money for maintenance. So a lot of them are being replaced, they're being taken down. I don't know if you've noticed that, but the ones that need maintenance, they've been taken down. It's just paint, the city's been painting.
I saw the one by the park, very well.
Yeah, so, but it's the city's responsibility.
And that's what the artist will also put together, is a maintenance plan. So that the panel can see, and especially the city can see, like, is this even viable? Any other comments on Joe O'Connell?
I like some of this stuff was have the glass, you know, with the sun as it's gonna move across, so you put it right there. You have a really good east and west, you know, for the glass to go through, so, you know, you have something for it to, but then the other thing too is, you know, you're gonna have glass with the sun beating down on it. Make sure we don't.
Just close to the road.
Light stuff.
And glare. Think about driving first thing in the morning, first thing in the morning coming
Right.
east and west, going west at night, that could be an impedance.
Right.
Yeah. And a
Yeah,
little
I'm
boy
saying
with a
we're
BB
down
gun.
with the magnification. So, we'll make sure there's gravel on it.
So then a little boy with a BB gun.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, well, besides the whole thing with the, like, you know, people that vandalize and stuff, something to think about as well,
Yes.
so.
All it's gonna take is a couple of little boys with a BB gun.
Talking to
Well, that lasts.
vandalization, we're pretty fortunate this town. Seems like, we get a lot of walls painted, graffiti and whatnot. We really don't get that on the art. They seem to have a respect for that.
Yeah, but then it's big record.
So we're fortunate.
Yeah, 'cause that's a whole other. Yeah, in certain cases, probably not for this one, because it'll be, there's a freestanding sculpture, is that we ensure that there's a graffiti coating going forward with mural projects, so then the maintenance is really just wiping it off.
We don't have any walls on this project, though.
No,
So-
yeah, this will be a freestanding thing. So this is something to consider too, is, the artist will have to build and pay for out of their budget the block that's going in.
Or, yeah.
Unless there's, yeah, I mean, there's something that, so they can work with, the city and designers on, a landscape design on, like how they all work together. Because that way, we don't want the artist to come in and drop something in. It has to look like it's supposed to be there, right? So that's why we have, the city on board and project managers that make sure that it fits into a plan that's been in place for many,
So-
many years.
If we can get this taken care of, normally we can put this into a competitive bid for foundation. That's what I've done on other projects. To kind of spread the dollars. But we need to get it done fairly soon because, they're ready to sign the seal. So we need to get it into a bid schedule so that the contractor can actually help out. And we can still cover some extra cost.
So, and we can do that, like after today, you'll select one artist, and then we'll start the process. The holidays may slow us down, but it'll be a few approvals, but by early next year, the artist should be ready to start going. We'll start our first design meetings at this point.
Is
So-
there gonna be any landscape,
That's
from
what
the road?
Yes.
So where would that impact that section?
We would definitely have to, once the artist is selected and we decide where the artwork is going to go, we would get the landscape architect will typically work closely with the artist. So in the case like this, we're gonna make sure there's not a big tree or
Well,
something.
yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So they'll work together.
The ring of the tree.
Once we have an artist on board, they will work together to modify the plans, make sure they work together.
Yeah, that's why this location does seem pretty ideal as well, because it's got low vegetation here, and you can see a larger sculpture. And with using Simon's example of how much metal sculptures cost, and that head that was 8 by 12 being, considerably more than this project, that's something to consider, of its location and its shape, essentially. So for Joe, why don't we pull up the old planner? There we go. Don, you still with us? Wait, luckily it's in order.
Yes, I am.
No, I don't know what the order is, but. Arturo?
Yes, I am still here. Can you
Okay,
hear
great.
me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start the votes. And.
Well, do we want them to rank all three? Do you want to finish the discussion of the other two? And then I'd like to ask them to rank all three, 1, 2, 3.
At one go.
Yeah,
That'll affect,
if that's okay.
everyone's choices might change, but I think it'll go by fast, having more discussion. Yeah. Sure. Kevin says yeah.
Talk about Robin.
We'll talk about Robin a little bit, maybe only give it a few minutes and focus just on artists, 5 minutes, and then do it again for Simon, then go to the vote. Robert Riley, do we have any discussion, interest? Would be interested in Robin and Jason's work versus anybody else's?
Robin gives you a lot of chance with ironworking things, with ironworks. So, and you can make a big, display in ironworks.
I think Robin and Jason's, you could potentially get a larger piece that's maybe not as intricate. Yeah. A lot of tile.
I appreciate their, between the wind, the playfulness of the sail, and then the emotion of the players. They kind of more neighborhood friendly. The other guys are seen more industrial, which is not a bad thing because we've seen them working. It's all beautiful. Yeah, it's just really hard.
Panel assembly.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that fireman.
Emotionally,
Was relating.
It was beautiful. It is beautiful. It really is.
And Simon Donovan? The last artist. Simon and Ben, actually. They did.
Yeah, they
I
did.
think everyone is probably familiar with Simon Donovan.
You can drive and not see
Something
their
that they've
work
done.
and how it fits in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If you drive around town, you almost know, looking at the art, okay, this is a Simon and Ben because it fits in the neighborhood. It's different. It's not anything you're ever gonna see anywhere else.
Is that good or bad?
For me, it's tops, but
Gets it.
that's me.
Any more comments about Simon Benjamin?
Yeah, just the resume kind of speaks for itself. Pretty good.
Yeah.
They had great photos taken. That's a big difference.
We're a little more concerned about the colored glass as far as Simon, are we worried about the stained glass or the acrylic glass that open house was talking about? You guys were worried about that because it's too close to the street.
And that could,
Who was working with glass? I mean,
The first one.
Joe.
I think it might have been a plastic, like some sort of PV or.
Dichroic
No,
glass
dichroic
has,
glass.
but
The U of A makes it, they make it for the, yeah.
Was it Robin working with glass there too?
Yes, Robin was.
Yeah. Robin
She works with
works
tile.
in mosaic, he works with tile and glass.
Oh, yeah.
on the ground, on the ground,
On the ground, yes.
the water.
But that's more like a consideration, maybe more of one side of the line.
But you can see that,
Yeah,
like those benches with the blue where the horses are at. Those are black.
Oh, no, there's no light one.
And that's something that can be considered at those design discussions.
And I would guess with, I mean, if Joe was showing us computer models and everything else, you can get very detailed models about where the sun is certain times of the day and certain times of the year, et cetera, et cetera. I think you'd easily be able to address that.
question is, do you like the glass? I mean, or
Yeah, is that what you want?
that's the
Is that what you want?
I think all these people can do whatever you want, to be really
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
But,
You like it?
you know, they have different flavors. Kind of like ice cream.
Exactly. That's the main thing we're talking about now, is design-wise, is which of these three artists, and you've seen their scope of work, do you think will lend best for this neighborhood?
So like for me, I like some of Joe's stuff. I don't like the cocoon. It's kind of growing on me a little bit, but I know some backstory on the cocoon. We can talk later, all right? But Simon and Donovan, or Ben rather, I wasn't too crazy about their presentation, but their resume does speak pretty well. I do like, at least for me, I like something that's, you know, it's gonna be art. I would like to see the art at daytime and nighttime. So when the sun goes down and it's dark, because that's gonna be a pretty dark area, right? That it's illuminated. So, and Robin didn't have anything with that. Well, the file is, they're not one. Right. So I wanted to joke around with them because they're flying in a hole in the blue line, and I'm a cop, so.
So real quick, just on Robin and Jason, the one up in the wall is going to be lit.
Okay.
Not internally, like a lot of them, but it'll
Right.
be externally.
Yeah, that's important to me.
It is hard. But that's why we'll go through this. You need to set score for yourself. Not a score, but which one, and then we'll look at those together and maybe it'll help consensus, or maybe you'll all have the same answer.
We'll be ranking them like first, second, and third for each.
Donna, were we just gonna do
Yes.
pick one? Okay, so it'll be,
What I was gonna do was to go as a poll and call each of you, and if you could rank the artists, your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. And so then we can see, you know, where they land. And in this scenario, low score wins.
Well, we can change scores though, right?
You can change scores later on, but what I'm saying is this will at least let us see where we are right now.
yeah, it might help narrow it down.
Because possibly one will come in third and you don't want to continue the discussion with them, and maybe it's just the top two.
No.
Yeah, that work for everyone? Donna's gonna do the call outs as she's the
Okay.
one. Yeah, so, favorite one, least favorite's 3. So as the tally goes up, the smaller number total will be the most number ones. Is that correct, Donna?
Yes, that's correct. And as I say, if one artist is clearly getting the higher number, so they're third, you may want to then discuss where 1 and 2 are and really start refocusing your discussion. Does that make sense?
Yes. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yes.
So Arturo, could you start off with your first, second, third choice?
Can we just do like your number one choice first? That way we can kind of see about where everybody else is falling.
Is that how you feel about that?
You can. So who's number 1 for you, Arturo?
I think I'll go with Simon.
Okay. And Kevin?
All right, so, boy, all 3 are pretty good. I'd really like to see what Joe would come up with for this project, but I think the neighborhood likes Simon's artwork a little better. So I would say Simon.
So what's your number 1?
Simon.
Simon, okay. Monica? Sorry, I sometimes have a hard time hearing all of you in the room.
Robin? I can. read.
Robin, okay.
Yeah.
Norma, is she there?
Norma's not here.
Okay, Sandra?
Simon.
Simon? Anne?
Simon.
Douglas?
I'll go with Simon.
Okay. Carla?
I think Robin.
Work for Robin? For
Robin, okay. And Debbie?
Wait, no, Debbie's not. That's everybody. That's a 10.
Is Debbie voting or is she not there?
He's not here.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So we have, the total at this point is 5, and then Robin at this point has 2 for first place. And Joe has no ones at all.
We don't even need to discuss Joey, unless you really want to pull it back into the.
Like, Simon is my least favorite, so that would add a 3 to him, which will be score.
We need to score them all, is what we do need to score them all, just for the record. Because someone's gonna ask why, and we need
Yeah.
to have an explanation for it.
I would like to see the low score thing. Where that ends up.
Yeah.
I think going back to the 1, 2, 3 is the right.
Yeah, let's do the 2s now.
Okay. So Arturo, who is your second choice?
I'll go with Joe.
Okay,
And I'll-
Kevin?
3.
So Robin is number 3, obviously, yeah. Kevin?
I have the same, like I said, I'd be really interested in seeing what Joe would come up with. I put him in Robin's-
So is that Joe is 2 and Robin 3?
Yes.
Okay, Monica?
Joe for 2 and Simon for 3.
Okay. Sandra?
Number Robin for 2 and Joe for 3.
Okay, Anne?
Joe for 2 and Robin for 3.
Douglas?
Joe for 2, Robin for 3.
Carla?
Joe is 2 and
And Simon for 3? Okay, so now, let's see,
11.
that's 11. And that is 16. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15.
Closer than I thought.
Yeah, it is.
Robin and Joe, I think, are going to be a more of a spirit. Interesting.
Yeah. So how would you like to proceed from here? Wilwin?
Are we worried about Norma and Debbie? I guess that's a problem.
If they were unable to make it, we can't hold back yet, but if they're volunteer.
I just want it for the record.
My question for Monica and for Carla is, would Simon and Ben be an absolute no, or just your preference?
I don't particularly object to Simon. If he already has a piece of Rita Ranch, and I think it would be nice to have someone else.
that's what you do my thinking too. They have the horses all along Houghton Road so far. And they have stuff all over Tucson as well.
The other 2 just aren't as prevalent in the area. I think it would be nice to do it.
And I love seeing lots of it as well. But I mean, any of them would be great. I'd be happy with another.
I think with the, you talk about stained glass stuff, that you can still come into the conversation with the other artists, because they're going to create something that is within our vision, so.
They don't show the things.
They'll just be horses with stained glass.
I really don't want.
No, I'd like to see something different as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that could be something that we tell them to go right into it. No more horses.
Yeah. I think that there's been a lot of people throwing ideas around fighting.
You're done.
Let's start narrowing it down to two. Are we ready for that big leap? The score has Robin as third, being the highest number. Is that a unanimous vote that we all agree to at this point? So that would mean eliminating Robin, so the two for the next discussion would be Simon and Joe. And we'll do a raise of hands. We can track it with this camera. If we want to eliminate Robin from this commission. So hands up if you don't want Robin to stay in the loop. Don't want. So that's a unanimous, that basically says that we don't need to vote on Joe because you're saying that you don't want Joe as a vote. That's 0 hands to eliminate Robin. So the next step would be to move to the second would be Joe O'Connell. Just to keep this all on record, a show of hands that want to remove Joe O'Connell from the finalist selection. Well, okay, sorry. So we have 3 artists up point, and we have to remove one. We have to remove 2 ultimately, otherwise we're gonna have to camp out here tonight.
So we're not in agreement that Simon.
Can we just go, you have one that's at 4 ahead, can you just go with?
If you want, if
The
you would like
lowest
to, we were
score,
having a
that's what you
discussion
told
about
me.
Robin and Joe, so it made it alluded that that was not the case. Because we could have, we can call it right now and could have done it so a little while ago. If it's unanimous that Simon is for sure after this vote, because the idea was we'd have some discussions after these so you could see each other's rankings. But in conclusion of this, if everyone believes that Simon and Ben should be the artists, please raise your hand now. Unanimous votes, voting members that are here. And congratulations. We can start with congratulations to the city. Kevin, we can get this project moving forward. Donna, do you have
Yes.
the other track? Great.
Okay, so it is Simon and Ben
Yes.
who are chosen as the artists who you're recommending to bring forward next week to the Public Art Community Design Committee.
Correct.
Okay. Thank
Great,
you all. That was a tough choice and a really good discussion.
Yeah, a lot of the artists in Tucson, you picked the top ones, which is really great. Shows the quality of work that's in our city. So next steps for all of you, you can just stand by through the holidays, enjoy your holidays. I'm gonna get to work getting your recommendations through the proper channels. So next week we have a meeting with PACD, and they are the community panel that oversees the public art programs to make sure we're doing everything according to administrative directives. So I'll present your selection there. Then we'll go through a series of administrative approvals for landing, meeting with project managers and discussing when our next meeting will be, which will likely be in January. But I'll send in enough plenty of time in advance when those next meetings are, and we'll keep them posted publicly so that the members can join as well. But that concludes our meeting. It's a really great job. It's really nice having an in-person meeting. We haven't done that since before my time, which is before the pandemic. And that's it, as a quick, what's happening?
And there you go.
Good job.